In 1989, I landed in a rehabilitation centre on the outskirts of Brisbane. It's a place I didn't really want to go to. My motive was to get out of a maximum security prison that I'd spent 3 years in, and I was going to knock off their Toyota 12-seater maxi van and drive it down to Melbourne and cause havoc in the state of Victoria as I had done previously. And my first group in this rehabilitation centre was disastrous to say the least. I, um, I used to have this moustache, um, which without it, I just used to feel really insecure with. And I used to somewhat hide behind it because I didn't like um, the way I appeared or looked. Well, I assumed that through other people's eyes. I used to think I was an alien. I'd walk down the street um, and people walking past me, my head would drop um, in low confidence because I thought I didn't belong here. So I hit this group and I was made aware in the first group at the rehab, which was called Logan House, that I'd have to shave this moustache off. To my horror, I bucked and I said that wasn't going to happen. And I was made aware I'd be going back to prison if I didn't conform to the rules of the rehab. So I did conform with resistance, and I did shave it off. And irrespectively of people saying, "Oh, that looks good," and "Yeah, that's better," and I was thinking, "Oh, what the hell have I freaking done here? I feel like a bloody fish out of water here." Um, yeah, and so they used to be big at this rehabilitation centre and dealing with feelings and coping with things and managing addicts' internal dialogue through confrontation and getting people to take accountability for their behaviour, their actions and their decisions and thought processes. I was in a group, and the group, it was a men's group, and that group was discussing topics of anger, and I had enormous anger problems. I was asked in this group, how did I feel about a situation that had arisen within the community of the rehab, and I said I was angry, and I was made aware that it was okay to feel angry, and I didn't get that. I always thought anger was an emotion where the next step to anger was aggression and violence, and yeah, and acting out to to justify the anger within a soul. Little did I know that I could be acknowledged for this anger as something that is normal and okay. I was quite shocked with that. Um, I, I turned around and said to the facilitator, so it's okay for me to behave the way I've behaved in the past when I feel anger, and I was made aware, no, it's not, because he was made aware that my past was pretty aggressive and had some violence associated to it, as far as my inability to cope um, when I'm feeling angry. And so I started to get a distinction between acting and feeling, which prior to that it was just reactive, 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 um, which kept people at bay. I didn't realise how I also kept people at a distance through my anger. Um, I didn't allow people to get close to me because if I was angry, people would shy away from me, and they they wouldn't have the ability to reach the parts within my soul that I was longing for to be nurtured and comforted and soothed. So this anger that I use, number one, to control situations. No, the other reason was I didn't have the ability to to manage the rawness that I felt within my soul, um, so people could get to know me. I really didn't like what I was feeling within my system. Um, and it was always somebody else's fault for that anger that I had towards other people. Um, but when I really took a look at it and broke it down to its common denominator, I really couldn't manage it within myself, and I was soothed by imposing it onto other people, where other people would wear the brunt of my anger, um, and yeah, it was quite justified within me. As a matter of fact, everything was justified, and that was a problem within itself, because what I was justifying um, wasn't helping me one bit. It was always somebody else's fault. I was feeling angry or resentful or annoyed, or uh, it was an incident that happened where I could justify it. Um, it was a trigger from something externally to me that I could also justify. But all these justifications just kept me in the circle and kept me in a circle, and I couldn't get out. It was like I was on a merry-go-round, and I just couldn't get off it. I just had no way out. So when I learnt that this emotion of anger was okay to feel, and I could start separating my feelings to my reactions and my decisions and my choices, I still needed some way of relieving this internal um, hell that I was feeling within myself. Like, how do I soothe this if I don't get any satisfaction from hurting somebody or making somebody feel the way I feel, or um, letting somebody else wear the brunt of these feelings that were raging within my soul. Like, how does it get soothed? And what I learnt in rehab is that talking gave me relief. But there was talking, and then there was venting. There was two different things. Venting about situations and people and um, incidents that arise in everyday life is very important, because that gives freedom. If you have the ability to talk about um, how you're feeling, and identifying your pain and your hurt and your resentment and your annoyance, or your frustrations, or whatever other emotions within your soul. Um, that's a positive thing. But if you just continuously blame people for it, or situations or circumstances or incidents, you're never going to move through it. Again, it's that merry-go-round that I stayed on for years and years and years, and I couldn't get beyond it because of how I was coping with it and my point of reference with it. So, after venting to people about this person or about what happened here or about a road rage incident or somebody I bumped into at the shop or somebody from my past life that triggered things within me, bringing up these emotions within my soul. When I got through, um, stopping that and identifying that these are my feelings and these are my thoughts and these are my behaviours, and nobody's responsible for this other than me. Um, no, no, no other human is responsible for what I've been through prior to meeting them. Um, no person is responsible for uh, my emptiness or my pain within my soul. No person is responsible for how lonely I used to feel living in a prison environment. No one is responsible for me taking drugs for years of my life and feeling numb and not being connected to emotions that I need to deal with, such as anger, um, and frustration and inadequacies. And so once I got that, I could start talking about the underlying feeling of anger, which always comes from pain, always derives from a hurt within a sick soul. A soul does become sick when it's not soothed or it's not supported or it's not nurtured. And I hadn't been nurtured or soothed all my life. I can remember I used to feel really angry within my family situation. I couldn't connect with my mother. I was really scared of my father, and my mum used to say that I just come out that way with being angry, and I didn't just come out that way. I look back in retrospect, and I see now that there was a lot missing that I wasn't nurtured with, and an unnurtured soul is an unnurtured spirit, and an unnurtured spirit is a spirit that seeks other things to fulfill them, such as drugs and behaviours that is probably unacceptable to general people in life who seek some kind of contentment and some kind of peace. So once I realised that it was okay to feel this anger, it wasn't as foreign to me anymore, and it didn't overwhelm me as much. I could go to people and talk about, my pain and my frustrations and how inadequate I used to feel and how I don't feel confident within myself, and once I got that, um, yeah, my whole life changed. So yeah, anger is okay. It's okay to feel it. It's a normal emotion that is within every human being. And I think the problem with anger is that when it's denied or when it's always externalized from somebody who will not take any form of accountability for their behavior or what they do in their lives. I'm big on accountability, and when you can take that accountability, um, that's when you can start managing your internal dialogue. Until that happens, yeah, I know everyone's on a different journey and a different process, but there's a lot of power in taking stock of yourself and taking accountability for all your emotions and anger and frustrations and all your decisions and your thoughts and all your actions. So yeah, have a good day. Thanks.